Andrew Tate admits this about the Bible while being pressed by George Janko.
Why are you reading the Bible so often? And she said,
one of the first times in a podcast conversation where I see Andrew Tate admitting that he may not have all the answers.
I actually respect, and you give me a lot to think about. Not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think. But you've given me something to think about, and genuinely, I'm going to think about it.
I thought this was masterfully done by George. He's been doing a great job with this podcast, with infusing his faith in natural ways inside of his podcast. Hey, but before we get into this video, my name is Ruslan, and this channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. If you're not new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. What are you doing? Now let's get into this video.
A lot of people are obsessed with the idea of happiness. And especially as a man, I think that happiness can actually be a very destructive motivator. And when men sit and say, I want to be happy, I want to feel happy. To feel happy, a lot of the time, you're looking for temporary hedonism. To be happy, you want to get drunk or take drugs or do something stupid temporarily, and it's very short-lived. I think you should instead be looking as a man to say, I want to feel proud.
Okay.
If you choose pride.
No. I think the first half of his statement is super spot on.
Yeah.
People are chasing happiness. People are chasing dopamine. People are, chasing entitlement. And the reality is that you're not promised happiness. You're not promised, just like the last video we covered, right? You don't get to always love what you do for work.
Yeah.
Like some things you do out of duty, right? Sometimes you do because you got to work to eat.
Pride over happiness. You're going to make decisions that you're proud of and the people around you are proud of. And it's going to be better for yourself and better for society and better for everyone who loves you, everyone you care about.
I think that's the first thing you said that I disagree with.
You disagree?
Come on,
I think the
George.
best thing a man can do is wake up and say, what can I do that's going to make me proud of myself and other people are proud of me?
Let's get into our debate.
First of all, Andrew Tate's false dilemma here. You either get to be happy, society teaches men they got to be happy, or I'm telling men they got to wake up and do something they're proud of. And George rightfully so calls him out and says, this is no, I disagree with you. And it is painted as a false dilemma. There's all kinds of other things you can do that don't require pride and or the delusion of being happy.
Yeah.
I believe that pride will always be the downfall of you. In fact, God calls it an abomination. If you stand before God and you search for anything in your heart and you take pride in it, you're saying that you did it, not God. That is my argument against that one. Two, happiness could be today. It's all perspective. Yeah. If you look at a tree, you could look at it and be like, oh, me and my dad used to pick apples from that tree, or his father himself in that tree. Yeah. It's the perspective. So anything could be changed in a perspective. So if you ask from God's perspective, and God used to walk into the room and say, shalom, peace be upon you. So I believe you could enter peace. I believe that you could only find peace when you welcome God into your life.
Here's something really cool is that he says happiness is about perspective. I think the better word would be joy. I think you could be joyful and grateful even when you aren't happy. But generally speaking, I think George is spot on. So let's go back and see Andrew Tate here actually concede his point in a moment.
A crazy nutcase that's a religious man, but I truly believe in all of my heart that money will never give you peace.
Yep.
I believe love will give you peace. Love comes from God and the people that are around you. Your mother gives you peace. Your father gives you peace. You can't buy that. And if you ask God for 5 things, only 5 things, Andrew, your Bugatti wouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
But your brother would.
Of course.
So you come
on.
That's fire.
Come on, George.
He's cooking.
Come on, bro.
So
but you don't think pride is one of the biggest motivators of masculine excellence? You don't think
No, because once you achieve it, you want more, and that's where it gets
Of course,
dangerous.
but you do not think Mayweather decided he wanted to be proud of himself by beating
Why
everyone?
would you
don't
want to
think
be
Michael?
Mayweather? Why
Why
could
would
have-
you want to be Mayweather? Who wakes up and goes, I want to be Floyd Money Mayweather?
Hey, Andrew, if you wanted to be Mayweather, you've been in Turkey 5 years ago.
I don't want to be Mayweather.
I'm not insulting Mayweather, or good or bad, but
Well, actually, I might cut that because it might jump me. So
Michelangelo.
Okay, he cut his ear off.
Okay, artists, Da Vinci. What I'm saying is some of the most beautiful works of
Michelangelo didn't cut his ear off. It was Van Gogh.
Oh, is it Van Gogh? Okay.
art, some of the most gorgeous cathedrals, some of the most beautiful churches you'll ever lay your eyes on were done because a man felt proud of his work. Feeling pride in yourself.
But what happened to that man?
And being proud, of course, but being prideful.
So you're looking at the art and you're trying, that's pride. You want everybody to take pride into you. But guess what, Andrew? Right now, if you died, regardless of all the work you've done, regardless of all of everything that you put in, I'm a better man, Reed's a better man, DaVinci's a better man, Bailey's a better man. All these guys are a better man for 2-3 generations. But when you die, you have the same grave of a man that you hate. Because time moves on.
Of course.
Everything collects moth and rust.
Come on.
So what's the point?
You don't think God can give you pride in yourself for doing the right things?
I think that you could find joy in it. But again, everything has its time.
Joy.
So you take pride in your art, but at one point, all those artists became crazy, bro. So what's the worth of
Okay,
it.
I understand that. So we can look at a bunch of different ways, but you just talked about a man looking in the mirror and being proud of his body to motivate himself. That's pride.
Absolutely. Pride to an extent, right? Pride to an extent. But if it's your motivator, that's the problem.
I think there's a difference between saying, I do things and accomplish things, and through competence, I develop confidence.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and I've accomplished being in good shape, and now I find my identity and my motivation as that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've been fairly shredded, 170, 15 pounds lighter, lean,
Yeah.
and I've been 200 pounds. It didn't change my value and my self-worth, right? And the part that's interesting is that at 170, it was never enough.
That's a fact.
I still have love handles. I can't. The lower abs, right? It's never
Man,
enough.
have you seen the UFC fighters lately?
Because you're always coming. So that's the part I think Andrew's missing about the pride, is that yes, it's a spectrum, but it's insatiable. There's always another level. There's always another thing. There's always another benchmark. There's always another number in your bank account. There's always another body fat percentage. There's always another, and so it's insatiable. But where does one find their worth and their identity from? It can't be from, I got abs.
Yeah.
I got abs. Like, okay, great. You should get abs. If you want abs, go get abs. But is that where or do we find our identity in something else? Jesus, what he says about us. And then from that, if you want to go get in great shape as unto the Lord, glory unto God. If you want to go and be financially responsible and get out of debt and give more to your church or give more to charity, amen, do that unto the Lord, right? But I think that the motivator is just totally different. One is about my self-esteem. I want to esteem myself versus I want to be faithful with my time, talent, and treasure, and what God's given me to manage.
So I think as a man searching for pride or searching to feel proud is a pretty positive mindset for masculine achievement. I understand what you're saying from the biblical sense. I actually understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I just say, if you were to take a man and say, how would you make your parents, your girlfriend, and yourself proud of you?
I agree. I just don't want it to be the driving vehicle. And that's the only thing I care about. I just don't want it to be the driving vehicle, right?
And then I have to sit here and analyze myself. Is pride the driving vehicle for me? Like, why do I even...
100%
Why do I even do what I...
Wow.
100% it is.
You just called them out. That's great.
on.
I think in some ways it got worse because there's anxiety attached to my money, but the true happiness that I get from my money is the fact that I can give people I care about anything I want.
You could set them free.
I can set them free.
But that's not always a good thing, man.
Yeah.
Access to excess destroys people. Proverbs says an inheritance attained too early in life is not a blessing in the end. Google the amount of people who win lotteries and how they squander the money.
Yeah.
So just giving people money, even family members, just giving them money without them going through a process is not always a good thing. And I think intrinsically Andrew Tate knows this. I think he gets this because I think he would accredit who he became as a byproduct of his upbringing.
To what George is saying, if the pride is the gas, you always want more. Whereas if the pride is not the gas, you can be like, oh, cool, this is a very financially fruitful season.
Yep.
But it's totally okay if that fades because this is an exorbitant amount of money to be waking up to every single morning. But the pride as a motivator ends up telling you that you need that every morning and that needs to be bigger the next morning. Whereas being like, if you're caking, it's like, oh, cool, it's a great financial season, but it might fade.
Yeah.
This too will pass.
Yeah.
You have to be careful who you're around because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, you are who you hang out with. Dude, there's a reason why God says sheep.
Yep.
We're sheep.
Yep.
We're all
So George parallels it to people being like sheep in terms of the 5 people you're surrounded with the most. And that's, by the way, I'm 99% sure statistically proven that if you financially, for example, take the income of the 5 people closest to you, look at the average income, and usually your income will be on that same level. But I think it's beyond financial. I think it's spiritual. I think it's relational. I think it's physical. Who you surround yourself with is who you will become or are becoming.
sheep, bro. I don't need to bring up my past, but my behaviors were intolerable because of the people around me.
Oh, absolutely.
You are who you hang out with. My father would tell me that all the time. He's like, hey, cut it out, bro. You need to stop hanging out with these people that are bringing you down.
You know what's interesting about that point before we move on? It's really interesting that people understand. I've never met somebody who disagrees with the point. You are the person who you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees with that. But then they hang around with
Well, you know
why? Where's the disconnect between those 2 points?
Because people like for other people to feel bad for them.
I think that's a gem. I mean, I think the victim mentality is so prevalent that I think George is definitely onto something here.
They hang on to that. That's their identity.
Sympathy.
Yeah, it's their identity.
What's their favorite emotion? Sympathy. Like we said earlier, their favorite emotion is sympathy. They're looking for sympathy. That's what they want. That's what makes them feel good. That's their favorite food. You have to choose what your favorite food is. My favorite food, I'll be honest with you, and I actually respect, and you give me a lot to think about.
Andrew Tate says you've given him a lot to think about.
And without being arrogant, at my echelon, it's not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think. But you've given me something to think about, and I genuinely, I'm going to think about it. But
hey, man, shout out to George Janko. Shout out to Andrew Tate for saying this and being honest.
My favorite food is pride. I do, and I don't know that's a bad thing. But I love when my woman comes to me and goes, you know what? You just fix everything.
Hey, we can say a lot of things about Andrew Tate, but one thing we can't say is that he's not self-aware.
I have something to tell you. And just randomly, I just learned about this, and it fits you so well. Sure. I read it again in the Bible. There's going to be so many people that are like, but yeah, I don't give a shit.
No, but that's what the knowledge is. My grandma is from Alabama, and she's a strict Christian. And she's from Alabama, like down the sticks, in the middle of dirt mud, Alabama. And she, one of my aunts is a lawyer. And I remember my aunt, sorry to interrupt you. My aunt
I love this.
My aunt had a big court case coming up. And she'd spend half her time studying the case and half her time studying the Bible. And I remember being in her house, I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. And my mother asked her name is Liz, why are you reading the Bible so often? And she said, because that's where all the answers are.
Amen.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andrew Tate with
Andrew
the
Tate.
rare Andrew Tate W. It's not that rare. I mean, that's a good W though.
That's a good W.
He said that's where all the answers
It's
are.
good that you
wisdom,
keep
man.
referencing it.
I appreciate George's boldness. People are gonna look and say he's cussing, he's doing this. He, admitted to, not being pure with his girlfriend. All these sorts of things, and all of that is true. All that's true, and he'll tell you it's true. But it's also true that he is extremely unapologetic for sharing his faith with guys like Andrew Tate. And how awesome is it that he has Andrew Tate saying all the answers are in the Bible?
That's hard.
That's pretty good.
I like it.
Because some of those tater tots, they might latch onto that and might pick up a Bible and might dig in deep. And so
Yeah, I wonder what his thoughts are on the Quran. Maybe he has like a religion fluid thing going on. Like all the answers are generally in religious books. Is like
Just
kind of his
books.
Yeah.
So in closing, it's very interesting to see George Janko press him. It's interesting to hear Andrew Tate talk about his driving motivator being pride, and how it's in contrast with what the scriptures describe. And considering what the scriptures describe in terms of biblical manhood, that is why we put together our priest, provider, protector line that's only available through the end of this month to help you and remind you who you're called to be. That before you put pride or before you put self-actualization, that you're first called to be the priest, provider, and protector of your home. It's available through the end of the month. And also, if you want to get our Bless God prayer journal, that is available on back order, shipping for the new year. If you want it in time for the new year, you need to go to blessgod.shop and get yours now before they're gone forever. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace.